Good Friday to everyone. And you see on your screen right now the assignments for today. Watch the daily video, which again you're watching right now. Um, and on this daily video, we're trying to do a little bit of review within these daily videos, and then also review segments in Zoom, and then watching AP Live, and also sometimes I'm making separate ones. This is going to be a little different today, and we'll talk about that in just a second on the daily one. Complete your Schoology FRQ. This is the second Schoology FRQ that you've had. If you need to catch up on others in AP Classroom, please do so. I am not assigning a separate AP Classroom FRQ. If you are completely caught up on AP Classroom, there are some optional FRQs. If you can, I'm sure you can find one of those. They're easy to spot there. You can do those if you like. I'll score them for you. But if you are behind or got some that were optional in the past and you want to practice, it'd be a good time to do that sometime over the next 3 days. But the one in Schoology, I think you're going to find, much like Wednesday, it's kind of an eye opener, and it's kind of it's one that gets our attention to what we need to improve on. Really try to participate in Zoom today for FRQ review. The way I've set this up, 11:30, 1 o'clock, and 2 o'clock. We are going to model answering FRQs. I'm actually going to somewhat model an approach on this video. I'm going to do one part on this video that I may not do in the Zoom sessions today that maybe takes just a little longer. And so I want to show everybody that part in just a second. But we're going to look at 3 different FRQs. So if you want to participate in all 3 Zooms, it would be beneficial. If you can only do 1, it's still helpful. You do 2, even more helpful. So we're not going to look at the same FRQ in each one of these. So I think it could be really nice to do that. And then watch AP Live review sessions over the next few days. I think a smart thing to do, and study, I forgot to put the study on there, is I think a smart thing to do is watch 30 minutes of AP Live today, kind of take some notes of yourself. What do I need to review? Watch 30 minutes tomorrow sometime, watch 30 minutes Sunday sometime if you can. And kind of divide it up that way. But what today is going to be like, as I looked at kind of what I had outlined, today's almost going to be like an FRQ training session day. So it's just about everything we're doing. You're doing an FRQ. We're reviewing how to take an FRQ. In Zoom, we're reviewing FRQs. I was incredibly encouraged yesterday in our Zoom sessions and all those that participated. And most of those of you participating in the Zoom sessions are also working right now consistently in AP Classroom, the FRQs. And there's a few others who've not been in the Zoom that are also working in those areas too. But some of the things I saw yesterday, some discussions that we got to, were some things that a few days ago I thought was going to be very hard in this format to get to, in this online learning, remote learning format. So that encouraged me, but it's also, kind of challenged me to say, okay, now we need to push that box. We need to push to that next level of what we would be doing if we were in class, and let's try to work on how we learn to discuss better in FRQ, explain. Think about how many of you yesterday I said, now, how would you do that? Or how would you explain that? Or how would you discuss that? And some of you kind of got tied up in that. That's okay. Because what I appreciate is you were not afraid to try the answer. A lot of us are getting hung up like that in our writing as far as not completing our discussion, our explanations, and all of that. So I want to help you with that. And I want to give you some encouragement in that. One of the reasons I said what I did the other day about the format of this test and how it could be beneficial to us and those that are really working at it, and that's why it really just, again, bothers me that so many are not. On a given year on the AP test, multiple choice at West High School, since I've been teaching this class and we started the class 11 years ago, on multiple choice, we typically score a little bit better than national average. And I say a little, it's a little bit better than a little most years, but it's better than national average. Probably, our average score is in like the 60 percentile range in that nature. But where we have really been able to succeed at this school in this class has been on FRQs. And it's because, we drill, we practice things like we're going to go over today. And to be quite honest with you, there have been years where as a group, the majority of us were in the 80 percentile on FRQs. Other years, most other years, we were around the 70 probably percentile on FRQs. Guys, we can do this, I think, in a way online that's going to be different than in class. But with full-scale involvement, we can do some things that really are going to put you guys in as good a position as possible for this exam. Again, for those participating, I am much more confident today than I was 3 days ago. And I was not, hopeless, but I was just a lot of uncertainty. I'm a lot more confident right now for those participating than I was, because I think we're ready to kind of move to another level of now, how do I discuss better? How do I explain better? So that's what I want to do the next few minutes on this video. And as much as we usually talk content, and I would rather talk content, this is probably going to be most helpful to you. But what I did is I picked a couple prompts, not FRQs completely, but prompts. And I thought, let's model this. If I had a prompt that said, explain the practice of intensive subsistence agriculture. Now, obviously on this test, you could look that up, so they probably would not ask it in that way. But I'm not focusing on the content nearly as much as I'm focusing on, so explain the practice of this means I must do what? All right, so what I want to do, you'll follow me on the screen here. I'm going to, let's see, pick a color, not that color. All right, I'm going to pick a color, and so you can see my answer in a different shade, and maybe even change the font here so you can see it a little better. So I'm explaining the practice of intensive subsistence agriculture. Explain means I must totally cover it. I must explain what it is, how it happens, and why it's used. And the first thing I'm going to do is maybe say that this is a type, and I'm going to abbreviate some words. You don't want to do that. This is a type of agriculture that takes place in LDCs, which all subsistence agriculture does. This is a type of agriculture that takes place in LDCs. Okay, that's one thing I'm going to say. So, but I've got to explain the practice of intensive subsistence. It also usually takes place on small plots of land that are very fertile, right? Now notice, this is an explanation. I'm nowhere near done, because that says explain. So I am nowhere near done. And I don't like I want a better color here for you guys. Let's see if I can, well, maybe not change it. I'll just leave it like it is. So this is the type of agriculture that takes place in LDCs, usually takes place on small plots of land that are very fertile. The crops grown in this type of farming are often staple crops, which are used to supply basically a lifeline to masses of people, all right? So these crops, the crops in this type of farming are often staple crops. Crops such as rice, corn, potatoes. Sorry, can't spell. Potatoes and other grain crops. I'm just going to say it that way. Notice what I have done by providing examples. And I know this video is going to have some lag in it, but I want you to see and I want to model what you need to do. So I've said where it takes place, LDCs. But I want to go a step further. I'm looking over mine now, and I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know if that's enough. It takes place in LDCs, but I know more than that. Today, intensive subsistence is most common in East and Southeast Asia. So I have identified not only the type of countries that it is in, LDCs, but today's geographical location. I am covering all my bases here. It takes place on small plots of land that are very fertile. I also may want to include, not only does it do that, but it also requires a lot of manual labor. Okay, so I've got the crops grown in this type of farming are often staple crops used to supply a lifeline to masses of people. Crops such as rice, corn, potatoes, and other grain crops are common on these farms. All right. I could add things like the more moisture that this type of agriculture has may determine which crops are grown there. Weather, like if I'm thinking about China, northern China is not going to grow rice because it doesn't rain enough. So notice how I'm developing this. This would be good enough for probably complete credit, but I'm thinking of ways I could add more. I've got some other ideas at the end of my FRQ time. If I've got time, I may go back and add some more. And see, most of you in your FRQs are struggling to get halfway this in depth. Now, it does take a knowledge, but remember, you're going to be able to look up, or at least look up real quickly to review ideas like this if you're asked this way. We have to be better at explaining, describing, and discussing. Okay, so I want to talk about, again, have I talked about where this takes place? Have I talked about why it's intensive? Let me ask myself that question. Well, sort of, but maybe I didn't do a good job putting that together, in my opinion. It takes place on small plots of land that are very fertile. I may want to add in here, I'm not going to type all this out, but I may want to add in here, these are often in LDCs where farmers are, we know their subsistence, that's already on there, but where farmers are struggling to survive, they don't have a lot of land, so they have to make the most out of the land they have. You could also reference how this used to be the type of farming popular in this part of the world, the United States, 70, 80 years ago. Okay, that's one example. Let me show you another one. All right, and again, I know this is not going to be the smoothest thing. I thought about ways to do this, and I think really the best thing to produce for you guys is not something that is like not flawed and already produced before I did the video, but actually that you can watch me going through the process of it to see what you're going to do. So it's on purpose that it's going to be kind of rough a little bit. Discuss two centripetal forces that exist in Poland. I'm going to change the font again here. See a little better. I bet you can see this one. All right, so two centripetal forces that exist in Poland. All right, so I would want to start briefly defining it. Centripetal forces are forces that unite a state. All right, I'm going to do that. I'm not saying that you have to, but I think it's a good start. Centripetal forces are forces, or are factors. I shouldn't say forces twice. See, again, I'm doing it in real time for you here. Centripetal forces are factors that unite a state. The country of Poland, which is found in Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe. I'm going to say Central Europe here, which is found in Central Europe, has several, and you don't have to be this formal, but I think the more formal you are, the better, to be honest. It's going to kind of win over subjective votes, I guess. The country of Poland, which is found in Central Europe, has several centripetal factors. One factor is Poland represents a good example of a nation state. As most people in the country are Polish with few minority nationalities. And I could also add, I didn't, that not many Polish people live in other places. So I've got to discuss two centripetal forces. It's not identify. So I cannot stop at Poland's a good example of a nation state. I've got to discuss meaning all the reasons it's a nation state. Poland represents a good example of a nation state as most people in the country are Polish with few minority nationalities. This is shown by the dominance of the Polish, I can't see right now because of, all right, here we go. The way this video is set up, it's hard for me to see what I'm typing. This is shown by the dominance of the Polish language, okay? This is shown by the dominance of the Polish language. Let me do this so you guys can see this better. Let me just bring everything, drop it down. All right? So I'm discussing two centripetal forces that exist. Notice I'm still on the first factor. It represents a good example of the nation state as most people in the country are Polish with few minority nationalities. This is shown by the dominance of the Polish language and the fact that most Polish people live inside Poland. Okay? That is, I think I'm up to about 3 characteristics helping discuss it. And so I'm going to read back over this and make sure I haven't left anything out. But that is the thing I'm going to bring. So this is a centripetal force, but I'm not done. I've discussed why Poland's a nation state, but I've not discussed why being a nation state makes it a centripetal force. So I'm going to say this brings people together because cultural, okay, I'm using some weird words here. This brings people together because cultural commonality often, I can't see, often prevents major disagreements. My typing skills are showing up here. Major disagreements. All right. So this brings people together because cultural commonality prevents major often prevents major disagreements of policy or even views of the world. So in other words, I've went on now to describe not only why it's a nation state, but why being a nation state brings Polish people together. That's one factor. Now I'm going to put a second factor on here. Get it where you guys can see it and where I can see it, hopefully. A second factor is that there we go. A second factor is that Poland is a compact state, which means there is no outlying geographic areas that are hard to reach. This typically unifies, again, I'm thinking through the process, this typically unifies because people work together better when they are in constant contact and understand each other better when they are in constant contact. So I've said, okay, they're a compact state, which means it's all together. It's not corrupted. It's not fragmented. And this typically unifies because people work together better when they are in constant contact. Also, this allows for a better government, or I shouldn't say a better government, allows for better government control. And I would probably reword that, but I'm going to leave it like it is. Also, this allows for better government control and transportation, and I could add communication, all that type of stuff. So I've been a little shorter on this second factor, but look at the length of my discussion. Look at that length, all right? I had that length there. I had this length up here. Now, I had another one I was going to go through with you, but I think this for now, well, maybe we'll do another one on Monday like this, but I think this is going to give you kind of what I'm shooting for. And I know this is rough. I apologize for my typing, my spelling, and mostly it's my typing because it's a mess. But, and I apologize that, there's kind of points this drags, but I want you to see the reality of walking through an FRQ. And I hope you watch this even before we do the sessions today, where I'm going to try to present some questions to you guys and let you kind of walk me through the process. So hope this helps. Work hard on FRQs. Let's start thinking about how to answer questions. And I would even tell you one way you can do it is practice writing. Another way you could do it is not only practice writing, but also you could practice orally doing a discussion and then work through the writing later. So hopefully this helps. We'll talk more about it today in Zoom.